Hey, what's up, comrades? We're here to talk about episode 15, or chapter 15 of the main campaign of Nikke Goddess of Victory, called Lucky. So finally, we get, I know we covered Rupee a little bit, like all the way back in like the second interlude with the winter story with Anne. But now we're actually going to talk about her, and the next week we'll talk about, well, this is the first time she like officially shows up in the main campaign, and the next week we'll have her Bond story along with the rest of Talentum, which is Dala and Yan, not Yun, and Ruby, not Rupee. Right, so they're obviously currency based, which means they're all like super wealthy, and they're all very focused on money and whatnot. So they join up with the counters here to go on a mission to the surface, and this is very unusual because mostly they spend their time like making money in the Ark, doing business related ventures, all that stuff. It's all three of them, Rupee, Dala, and Yan. They all kind of separately, they all kind of figured out there was a spot on the surface where they could get like some really good, like they could get treasure essentially, like some really good stuff that like, and relatively free because they just got to wander out to the surface, kill some raptors and grab it. And the counters are the perfect people to do it with because the counters will split with them 50-50. So whatever they bring back with Talentum, everyone's going to split 50-50. And the counters need it because, man, they're like hurting after all that Marion stuff, like their place getting blasted a few times and just not being able to go out to the surface and do jobs and whatnot. Like they're hurting, and they talk about it. So the money's gonna help with the reconstruction of the outpost. And let's see. Oh yeah, so as we're headed out, Rupee, as you remember, she loves to stream to her Lupins. So she starts streaming everything that we're doing. And then Neon's like, hey, what's she doing? And Dallas is like, hey, it's marketing, man. Like, she's an expert at marketing, so she can send her, like, high-end luxury brands and whatnot. And we find out that Rupee owns the largest mall in the Ark. So the more she shows up in, like, live streams, the more she does stuff, the higher a chance that she'll be in, like, the news for stuff. And then the more people will see it, and then viral marketing happens, and then people buy her stuff, and like, she becomes wealthier and wealthier and wealthier. And we talk about, like, viral marketing for, like, a moment. And then they kind of reiterate that their whole thing as like a squad is about money, making more money and stuff. At that point, we come across a bunch of raptors that are all moving in like a line because they're most likely transporting something. So Talentum mentions that they are headed towards the coordinates that they're headed to. And we're all like, excellent, sounds good. I guess we'll have to kill them all. Ainz gets kind of concerned about rushing in, and then... but then Neon is like, oh no, we're good. We gotta, we can just blow the shit out of them. It'll be great. And then Ainz is like, I don't know if we really should keep going, and then Neon's like, no, listen, I'm so tired of this shit. We're out of money. We're out of resources. I'm tired of taking cold showers. I'm tired of half rations. And Jan's like, holy shit, Commander. Like, what the fuck are you doing with these Nikkes? And we're like, we're sorry. We're really bad. And the Dala states that we don't have to like rush in and kill the raptors. We can like be sneaky and sneak around to like the actual coordinates and figure it out there. Because the goal of this mission is not to kill raptors at all. It's to like sneak into like this treasure trove, pick up a bunch of stuff, and then go and sell it for lots of money. And then Ainz is like, well, I don't understand why you guys are even out here. Like, you're all super rich. Like, do you need to be more rich? And then the Talentum is like, oh, so I guess you haven't been following the news. And we're like, no, what happened? And like, Missile's stock crashed. And it's like, what? And it's like, yeah, because the whole thing with Mattis and how they put them in cold freeze instead of like mind wiping them and stuff like that made the investors nervous. And then we had the whole thing with Marion where everybody in the Ark, all the CEOs, like sent people out there except Missiles. And so like, why aren't they sending people out there? So they look very weak in this situation. So that caused their stock to crash. And because Talentum is like invested in them, they lost some money. So they want to make some of that back up by coming out here and getting this stuff done. So, because the market crashed, they have to take some more risky measures to make money. Because when like the market's good, you're good, but when it's not, now it's time to like, take a chance, if you will. So eventually we follow these raptors over, and they're circling this like area where the item is that Talentum wants. And so our only choice at this point is to charge in or go home. So when they're like, well, Commander, it's up to you. What do you want to do? And so we recall like very recently how Ainz and Neon were talking so much about the dire straits they're in and how terrible everything was. We're like, all right, let's do this. Let's charge in. So we do, and we kill the shit out of the raptors. So after the battle, the girls are like so excited. They're like, oh, we're going to do it. We're going to get some stuff. We're going to be able to take hot showers. And then it slips when they're all their talk that like every night, like all three of them, Ainz, Rappy, and Neon, sneak into the commander's room so they can take a hot shower because I guess we're the only ones who have hot water. And then Rupee's like, and she's talking about it on her stream and how like salacious it is for these Nikkes to go shower with their commander and whatnot because you know what? Sex sells. They literally call it out. So once the raptures are all cleared up, we find that we just walk into like a garbage dump, and it's like wah wah wah, and the counters are like, what the fuck? This is just trash. But Talentum is like super. They're ecstatic. They're like, oh, look at this treasure trove. There's Godsium. There's rapture cores. There's these like rare chips from like before the Ark and all this stuff. And so it's a gold mine. So they start grabbing up stuff, and the counters, seeing the Talentum super excited, and they know everything about money. They're like, yes. So they start grabbing stuff too. And we're like, oh, I guess we better try to grab something. So we try to pick up a rapture core, but obviously we're human, and it's like way too fucking heavy. And then we find a piece of paper. And this piece of paper is very interesting. It's a journal, and it's written by Alva to her AI, like Alva particles, right? Interesting. So she talks about how the AI feels solitude just like she does, and how she's like lonely and whatnot. So as the Nikkes finish up, the ground begins to shake because dun dun dun, there are raptures sleeping in the dump. so we kill the shit out of them. And then afterward, the counters are thinking about living the high life. They're like, oh, we're going to do this and this. And I'm going to have gold tubs. And life's going to be so good. But unfortunately, there's a bunch of more raptures that show up. But this time we run because they're all like Lord class plus raptures or something. And so it's like, well, we can't carry all this stuff out if we got to run. So drop the heavy stuff and just grab the valuable stuff. And so we make a break for it. Back at the Ark, Rupee has a stream going so we can show off all our treasures and all the things we got and whatnot. And so like Yan is like, oh, I got Godsium or something, and Rupee's like, oh, I got some ancient luxury items that are gonna be so good, like this ancient purse and whatnot. And then Dala talks about how like she picked up all these chips because they're small, and like she's focused on like technological money making and stuff like that and whatnot. And then the counters turn, and they all brought back junk. Like instead of Godsium, I think Neon brought back like just regular pieces of iron. We brought back a piece of paper. Rappy's like, oh, I had some chips, but I think I grabbed the same chips as Dala, but I must have dropped them in the battle. And so it's like, wah, wah, wah. And Teletum's pissed because we made a contract to share everything 50-50, and the counters brought shit all. So Teletum has to split like all the stuff they brought without the counters essentially have to split anything. So they're livid. Later on, there's a news report. In this news report, it's Syuen announcing that Mattis has been resurrected without doing a mind wipe. And then, like, question about this, Syuen mentions that Mrs. has established a new technique called Vapaus. She's taking credit for it, which can cure corruption without needing the mind wipe. So then they're like, well, we'll prove it. And so she's like, done. So she summons up Mattis, and they're all there, and they're all fine, and they're all talking normally, and everyone's like, wow. And then the counter, after the press conference, counters start discussing this with us, and it's like, well, it's great to have Mattis back, especially Laplace, because she's the best. But how did Syuen get Vapaus? Like, what did she do? And then, you know, they're like, as they're discussing this, we like recall back to the battle where Modernia, who is Marion, right, grabbed the bullet when we tried to shoot it with her and spit it on the ground. So she must have gone out there and got it later. And then we talk about like allowing Syuen to take full credit for the Vapaus and how's that going to work, and also that we want to get back and get the bullet because it's our bullet, even though she picked it up off the ground. So we head over to the Missless and confront Syuen, and she's sassy as shit as usual and hot. So we and when we like call her out on all this bullshit, her assistant Rion, who is still in NPC jail as of June 2025. Talks about how lets us know that they expended all of the Vapaus and the bullet to try to bring Mattis back. So then what about the proclamation that Syuen made? Because during the thing, she's like, oh, we produced a new form of way to like bring Nikkes back from corruption called Vapaus, and like, anybody can have access to it, right? But it's impossible because they don't have any more Vapaus because it was all used up. And so she talks about, she has this whole like crazy scheme. And so the whole reason she did this thing was to make this false proclamation was to get their stock prices back up, right? And so the scheme is that she's going to indicate that the cost of doing the procedure to not have to do the mind switch is like astronomically higher than just like creating a brand new Nikke. So like just do a mind wipe. Like it's so much more expensive. It's not cost effective enough to make it happen. And so we call her out on that. She taunts us like, what the fuck are you going to do about it? And then we say we're going to go find more Vapaus. And then we're going to give it all the Nikkes. And they're all going to have a chance to use it for free. And that's going to break your dumbass monopoly or whatever. And I'm like, she doesn't have a monopoly because she doesn't have anything to do. And then she talks about teaming up with us and helping us out so that she can keep Vapaus a secret. We're like, hell no, get the fuck out of here. And so we leave. And then afterwards, we talk to the counters. And they're super excited that we shut her the fuck down. But we're like, well, how are we going to get more Vapaus? Like, you also are making proclamations that you can't like necessarily follow through with. So it's like, well, let me try reaching out to Snow White, see where she got it from, and maybe we can get some more from her. But when we try to send the message, it doesn't even send through, which possibly means that she's in an area with very high levels of alpha particles. But that we can head out to find her. At that juncture, we get a message from Syuen. Syuen again threatens us with like this terrorist plan that she threatened us with before, being like, oh, if you don't go along with me, I'm going to tell everybody that you did a terrorist attack or you're planning a terrorist attack on the Ark and whatnot, and you're gonna get it. And we're like, hell no, go fuck yourself. And then she's like, come on, just join up. And we're like, no. And then she starts talking about our love for Nikkes as a means to get us to consider working together. Because once we get the Vapaus, how are we going to mass produce it or whatever, right? So Missless can mass produce the Vapaus if we can get a sample. And then once it's mass produced, all the Nikkes can get access to it. And so at that point, we're like, I guess that is true. So all her like threatening and stuff is more our love for banging our hot robot waifus is really what at the end of the day is like, all right, fine. You know what? I love all Nikkes. And if you can mass produce it, I guess we'll work together. Counters are not big fans of this. And Ein specifically mentions that, like, hey, you know, Syuen is probably going to betray us because that's what she does. And I'm tired of getting stabbed in the back. And, you know, we, as commander, discuss how we don't really have a choice. Like, if we can get this thing, Missless does have the capabilities and the research, like the MMR, to mass produce Vapaus so that everyone can have access to it. And so, reluctantly, after a little conversation here, they agree. And that wraps up Chapter 15, which was excellent. So go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys later. Bye.